Welcome to JHart Modelworks. We're getting back to work on the 1944 pickup from Revell. In this episode, we're going to work on the interior and the cab. Welcome to my workbench. Let's get started. Hey guys, Justin here with JHart Modelworks, and before we get into the video today, I want to go and touch base on a couple of things real quick. First is Mike over at ProscaleModels. Mike is a moderator on the ISM live shows. He also does a live show with Sue. Occasionally he does some stuff with model stuff on his channel, but a lot of it is live shows. Mike is like the first person to be posting people's channels for shout outs. He's a huge supporter of a bunch of YouTubers. I'm one of the ones that was constantly posting links for my channel. So a huge shout out for Mike. And Paul has decided that Mike is going to be the next channel that we're going to support, try to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you could, down in the description below, there is a link to ProscaleModels. So go ahead and give Mike a check out and maybe give him a subscribe and give him some support. Next item on the list to discuss is an apology, and that's for the back end of this video. The way my camera is mounted, it's above me and it points down onto the workspace, so I can't see what's actually being recorded, which also means that I can't see when I'm out of frame, and I can't see if everything's set up right or not. Normally I can tell when I get everything set up, everything's good. I did not realize that the camera angle had changed and that everything was pushed far too forward and to the left. So a lot of what we have is going to be out of frame, and then when I have trouble seeing, it's a habit to just pull everything closer to me, and I pull things out of frame. So I do want to apologize for the state of the second half of this video. I have a new app which, if it works the way I think it's going to work, will allow me to stream the camera to stream my entire phone screen to my PC monitor. So I should be able to see better what's going on while I'm working. Hopefully that will allow me to be more cognizant of I'm pulling out of frame so that I can make better videos for you guys. So I am working on it. Thank you for bearing with me. And now let's get down to work. Not a lot of parts to cut off, as most of them have already fallen off the sprues. We'll cut what we need to and just clean up all the parts. Please remember to keep the videos down. I do speed the footage up about 2 times, well, 1.5 to 2 times, depending on what's going on. So don't feel any kind of need to rush through. Take your time. When you're sanding these thin parts like this, make sure you keep your finger on the other side of the sander so that you're pressing against your finger and not just all the weight going against your part. And for this, we are going to go ahead and pre-glue the base of the seat to the floorboard. It's all getting painted one color, and this will just make everything go a little easier. And once I get it kind of pressed together, I'm going to go ahead and just use the capillary action of the Temi Extra Thin and just go around it just to make sure that we have a good glue seam all the way around. Don't want this coming apart later. Right, everything has its base colors. We're going to go ahead and do the steering wheel and the gear shift knob. We're going to start with some NATO brown just to give us a base for the wood. My very first video on the channel was a tutorial on how to do this wood grain effect. And next we want to do some dry brushing with some XF55 Deck Tan and some XF1 Flat Black. We're going to use an old tester's brush that's had the ends cut off of it. And it's not really a dry brush so much as a dab, but you're going to take most of the paint off like you're dry brushing, and then you're just going to dab where you want color. We want to just break it up randomly around the wood. Leave some spots open, don't cover it all in the black, because we do have another color to go over here later. So we've got some shadows for our wood. Now we're going to add some highlights. Same process, using the deck tan. We're going to get some paint on the brush, get almost all of it off, and then we're just going to stab at it's a dabbing motion. I know they always say don't stab with a paintbrush. This is why we're using an old junky paintbrush for this. We just want to break up the brown and the black and get some highlights and some texture in there. Now once we have our shadows and our highlights with the black and the tan, we're going to head to the booth and spray the magic sauce, some Tamiya Clear Orange. Alright, so here we are in the booth. We're going to cut the Tamiya Clear Orange 50/50 with some Mr. Leveling Thinner, aka Unicorn's Tears. This stuff is amazing. It thins everything. It lays down perfectly. It'll take an acrylic from Tamiya and make it lay down like a lacquer. It's great stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the first coat as a mist coat. Just going to get it down, get it on, give it a couple of minutes to kind of tack up. We will then follow up with another coat that's going to be slightly more wet, and then 1 to 2 more wet coats. I think I end up doing about 4 coats total, so that we get a nice glossy finish like polished wood. If you want, you can hit this with a clear afterwards like LP9, but I didn't find it necessary after doing the wet coats. Now we're going to add a little bit of detail. I'm taking the circle cutter from Display, and I'm just going to cut a 2 or 3 millimeter circle out with some bare metal foil, and I'm going to apply this over the center so that it breaks up the steering wheel just a little bit. There's kind of a circle on the center of the steering wheel, and that's just what I'm lining up with, is just that center circle. Just take a little bit of CA glue, and we're just going to glue the steering wheel onto the steering wheel column so that we can install it later. Now here's our finished steering wheel. I thought about going back and respraying it silver. The copper doesn't stand out against the wood, but the copper is kind of a theme for the build, so I'm sticking with it. Now we're going to use some Molotow. We're going to add just a little bit of trim around the bottom of our shift knob. We're just going to use our mechanical pencil, dip it into the paint, and go right around the bottom of that knob just to give us like a nice silvery chrome trim ring. While we had some Molotow out, we went ahead and added a little bit around the base of the shifter, and then we're going to take this metallic brown Sharpie marker and we're just going to hit all the petals. The petals are molded into the floor. They're not really well detailed, but they are raised enough that we can really get in there with this Sharpie marker and call them out. And this is where the footage goes pretty rough. Alright, so putting the hinges in place, we're going to start by taping our door where we want it once it's closed. The hinge parts should go like this together, and then we're going to put some tape on the back of them to hold them straight. Once we have them taped so that they stay together, we're going to go ahead and set them in place. Then once we get them in place, we're going to use a paint stick to hold them together, remove the tape, and now we can apply glue to glue them where we want them. If you don't use something to clamp the parts together and keep them together when you glue them in place, they can come loose and then the door doesn't sit right. I actually have that problem with the other door. I tried just doing it normally, and I ended up having to glue the door because it won't stay on. So we're just going to hit the super glue with some kicker. We'll repeat the process for the bottom hinge, and then we just got to repeat it for the other side. So right after installing the doors, I realized I probably should have installed the glass first. We're going in and we're going to use some Bondic to glue these in place. Now because I've got the doors in place, it's kind of hard to reach the top of the glass, so we're really only going to hit it from the bottom and the sides. From here, we need to put the hood hinge in place. We need to glue this triangle piece in first that holds the hinge, and then the hinge just sits loosely behind it. After that, we glue in the dashboard, mostly off screen. Hit it with a little kicker so that it stays in place. Then we're going to glue in the firewall. There's a little lip on the edge of the firewall that glues into place, and there's a little notch so that it gets located properly. You can't see it because I'm off screen. And now we're going to take our steering wheel, and we want to thread the steering wheel through the hole in the dashboard. A little bit of glue to the hole on the firewall, and then just carefully get it set in place. Then we can hit it with some Insta-Set. So we have these two little side pieces that we need to glue in place. Just put a little bit of glue on the front and back, and then we want to carefully slide these in place, and this really cleans up the interior and just hides all of our hinges and stuff. And the kit comes with a first aid kit, but the instructions don't say anything about this part at all. So I just decided I'm going to go ahead and stick it over here on this side. It seems like a convenient place for it. The inside door panels have three little tabs that stick into these three little holes to line them up. I put some glue around the outside of the door panel as well, so I don't have any gaps. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the Insta-Set. I'm becoming fairly reliant on the Insta-Set. I'm finding it's taken a long time lately for the CA glue to dry. It's probably about time for me to replace my CA glue. But here we have our finished up cab. Again, I did the door cranks in the copper as well, and it does not stand out well against this brown. It would have stood out better if I did a chrome, but I'm sticking with the green and copper theme here. We're going to move on to the floorboard portion of the assembly, and there's not really much to this. We have the floorboard itself. We have our gear shifter. We have our fire extinguisher, which again, the kit has no instructions for where to put this. And we have our seat. Since the instructions don't really tell me where to put this, I'm going to put some glue on here, and I kind of figure it would go real well right in the center between the passenger and the driver's side, right on the floor at the base of the seat. I'm then going to glue the seat in, but these holes are not enough really to just glue it, so I'm going to put some glue around the outside edge. That'll help hold our seat firmly in place. Once we have our glue applied, it's important that we get everything lined up when we set it into place. Now, I know this is being lazy, but I know that the gear shifter sets deep into the base on the floorboard, so I'm just going to dip it in some glue and put it in the hole. Now, when I do put it in here, I do want to make sure that it's angled so that it points towards the driver and not just straight back. And that's the floor section. Now we're going to glue it in place, and there's 4 notches in the chassis that line up to 4 tabs on the bottom of the floor. It's important that we get some glue in here, and it's important that when you glue it that it goes down firmly and evenly and it sits flat. If it doesn't, it's just going to look bad anytime you open that door. Let's get everything lined up and make sure that it's pressed firmly down. The tab has these two notches in the front, and it's important that they sit all the way down on the chassis on these little notches here. But when you try to seat it down onto the chassis, the cab wants to pop back up. So when we go to glue this in, we're going to get a decent amount, not sloppy amount, just a decent amount of glue into the notch on the body. We're also going to put some glue along the back side. Oh look, I figured out I was out of frame. And then we're going to add some glue to the notches itself where it's supposed to rest. And then when we set this in place, we want to make sure that the cab presses all the way down so that the cab sits firmly against the body, and then hit it with the CA glue. And once we have everything firmly in place, we'll hit it with the Insta-Set so that it locks it down. Now I had a little issue where my big old thumb pushed the floorboard out of place, so I went back in and I added some CA glue all around where the floorboard meets, and then we're just going to set that back in place. That's just going to give us a little bit of a stronger hold, and there's our finished up cabin interior. Open our door here, got a good look at the inside. I think it's looking pretty good. So that's going to wrap it up for this section of the build. And honestly, the only thing left is final assembly, and there's really not much of that to do. We need to mount the chassis to the frame, we need to get the bed together, finish up the exhaust, and then take care of little things around the body. Once again, I'd like to ask you to check out Mike over at ProscaleModels, and of course, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you on the next video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Also, feel free to leave comments, feedback, critique, or anything else in the comment section below. I enjoy interacting with all my viewers in the comment section and try to reply to all the comments I receive. If you want to catch future videos, please consider subscribing to my channel and make sure you click the bell notification icon so you can be notified when I upload new videos. As always, thank you for watching, keep modeling, and have a great day.